Okay, we're continuing the Hachaim. This week's Parshat is Parshat's Metzora. Now, normally we know that Metzora is together with Tazria. And most of the times, we don't have the opportunity to delve deeply into Parshat's Metzora because we're usually focused on the first Parsha. This week we have the privilege that Metzora, Parshat's Metzora, is a standalone Parsha, which gives us an opportunity to give it personal attention and to focus on it a little bit more. So just as a recap, we know that in last week's Parsha, Parshas Tazria, the Torah introduced us to the concept of tzaras, of negaim. The Torah gave us all the different signs that would indicate to a kohen that Reuven has tzaras, that this individual has tzaras, and the signs to indicate when it's not tzaras, and in the event that we find out that Reuven has tzaras, what are the signs that the tzaras has gone away? This week's parsha focuses on the fact that once Reuven, who was declared to be a Metzora, to be Tameh, now the Kohen inspects him and finds out that he's no longer a Metzora. What is his purification process? And that's discussed, that begins in the first two psukim of this week's parsha, Parshas Metzora, Vaydaber, and Hashem spoke to Moshe, and Hashem said, Zois tia Torah HaMetzora. This will be the Torah of the Metzora, b'yom taharasai, on the day that he becomes tahar, v'huva el HaKohen, and bring him to the Kohen. So Hachaim asks, in reality, the pasuk should have simply said that this, when the Metzora becomes tahar, bring him to the Kohen. What is the extra words, Zois tia Torah HaMetzora, coming to teach us? It seems to be that it's extra, and obviously we know that there's nothing extra. So the Chaim delves deeply into what is the pasuk really teaching us, hinting to us. The Chaim gives a few different terutzim. We're going to focus on the last terutzim. So before we begin, we have to give two quick hakdamas. Hakdama number one is that we know Chazal teach us that tzaras is a punishment as a result of a person speaking Lashon Hara. A person spoke Lashon Hara, usually when he speaks Lashon Hara is quietly, not in front of the person. For example, Reuven tells Shimon something bad about Levi, and more than likely he either would not want Levi to find out, or he would not have said it if Levi was standing there. So the tzaras shouts out, Reuven, you spoke something bad about somebody, you have to do tshuva. So the question is, how do we really know that? How do we know that this is the punishment for this Aveira? And in general, when a person does an Aveira, how does he know what is the Aveira that he should do tshuva for? Now normally, we don't really know. Sometimes you have to go to a tzaddik, sometimes you have to investigate, sometimes Hashem says there's a few things that a person does, so do tshuva on multiple things. Usually, the best way to indicate or to check is midah keneged midah, right? Usually Hashem will punish the person in a midah keneged midah way of something that he did. So here, the Hachaim says a very fascinating thing. He says, when you look at the physical aspect of tzaras, if you go to a doctor or to a scientist, to a biologist, and ask them how exactly does a person develop tzaras, leprosy, lesions, they will tell you that normally it comes because the individual is secreting an inordinate amount of bile or poisonous cells in his body. The body tries to fight back. And just like when a person has an infection, he has a pimple, the pimple indicates that underneath there's an infection. You have to put cream, you have to take medicine. So too, the body can't keep internally anymore the extra decay that's a result of stress or not eating properly or depression or all the types of things, and then it breaks out. And if you continue to go to that same doctor and say to the doctor, what is the remedy for such a thing? So the doctor will say he has to be in a positive environment, he has to be happy, he has to eat proper foods. The worst thing to do is what the Torah says. The Torah says that when a person becomes a Metzora, he has to be secluded, he has to be quarantined. He has to be cut off from everybody. And in actuality, that remedy will actually make it worse. Actually, that can contribute to an increase in tsaras. Yet the Torah says exactly what you think is the wrong thing to do is exactly what I want you to do, right? Like the famous story with the Rebbe and Rebbe. A person came to the Rebbe and Rebbe, and he was very sick. He couldn't eat. He had some major stomach problems. So the Rebbe gave him kugel, the Rebbe gave him cholent, and he said, I want you to eat it. So he told the Rebbe, this is the worst thing for me to eat. The doctor forbade me to eat this. So the Rebbe said, Adarabba, exactly why I want you to eat it, because the doctors who know nothing, it's all from Hashem, I want you to eat it. And exactly, the fellow ate the kugel and the cholent. Obviously, it was because of the tzaddik and the tzaddik's bracha, and from that time on, he was able to eat. So we see from here that even though normally the remedy to remove the tsaras is to be in a happy environment, among friends, eat healthy, exercise, in an open area, the Torah prescribes, on the contrary, be cut off, closed off, secluded, you're not depressed. Why? In order that you should do tshuva. And on the day that you become tahar, says the Hachaim, what the Pasuk tells us, you know how you're going to know that what the tshuva that you did was the right tshuva? The indication, the sign that the tshuva that you did for the lashon hara that you said was correct, was on the day that you become tahar, the day that the tsaras, which according to science and logic should have not only gone away, it should have actually increased, goes away, and the kohen can now say that your tahar is actually the proof of itself that the reason that you got tsaras was because of the lashon hara that you spoke. And now that you did tshuva, it went away. And when a person sees that the medicine that he got, which should have hurt him, should have made his situation a lot worse, actually helps him, he will understand that the reason that he got it was because of lashon hara. And that's what the Torah says. Zois tia ha-Metzora. You know how the person is going to know why he became a Metzora? B'yoyim taharasai. The day that he becomes tahar, and he sees that the tshuva that he did actually helped him to heal the problem, he will know that it was because of the lashon hara that he spoke, and now he will become tahar. And the sign would be is that when you go do something that Hashem says, which you think is counterlogical, and when you do what Hashem says, you will see as a result what was the root cause of the problem. And that is what our Hachaim is teaching us. And our Hachaim shows us how every word in the pasuk is not chas v'shalom extra, adarabba. Our Hachaim brings a few different pshatim on the extra words of Zois Tia Torah Metzora. A wonderful Shabbos.